Mum!
Oh, what is it?
Are you sure we can't go back to our old house?
You'll soon get used to it. Think of it as an adventure.
Simon the Sorcerer was one of my favourite games when it first released back in 1993. It was a point-and-click adventure that parodied some of the classics and books such as Lord of the Rings, but when the developer and publisher reached out to me as the second person, I think, ever to have played the new game that comes out in October, for me to have a go of a special build that they've created for the new Simon the Sorcerer Origins, I didn't really know what to say. Like, this one features some of my favourite voice actors of all time. So yeah, just a massive thanks to Inin for sponsoring this one. If you're a fan of classic point and clicks, you are going to be very excited to hear all about the new game and its simultaneous release on all platforms in just over a month. And yeah, there'll be a physical as well. Happy days. Is it looking like one prequel veering into the red, or is it going to dwarf all of its competition? Well, my name's Mark Walker. Welcome to SwitchUp. Now let's find out. So as mentioned there, Simon the Sorcerer Origins is an official prequel to the first, which came out in '93 and ran on MS-DOS as well as Amiga. I think Simon the Sorcerer 2 came out in '95, and I think it was the CD version of that one that had the voice actor on it. There was some puzzle game in '98. Then we got Simon the Sorcerer 3D in 2002, which didn't go down too well with fans. And we saw Simon the Sorcerer 4 return to that classic point-and-click style, but it still had 3D. And eventually in 2008 or 9, I forget the exact date, we had Simon the Sorcerer 5, which had like a sci-fi theme. If you played Space Quest back in the day, then you'll know the flavour of that one, but it didn't necessarily fit with the Simon the Sorcerer vibe. So I was really pleased to see Simon the Sorcerer Origins going back to basics. Hand-drawn, carefully created 2D visuals, full voice acting, and a return of some of the best voice work that we've ever seen.
It stinks worse than a public loo, and I think somebody may have mistaken it for one.
Now, you may have noticed from the intro there, I referenced Red Dwarf, and that's because Chris Barry of Red Dwarf and the Britass Empire, underrated, makes a return. For German audiences, you would have had Eric Borner, and he also returns to do the German voice work.
Ich bin Simon. Erinnerst du dich nicht an mich?
It's important to note as well that I think in the US you had a different voice actor, so you may be thinking, what? Hang on, I don't remember those guys. Now obviously I am not going to spoil the story because these games are all about their narratives, but we can say that it is a prequel that is set I think a few weeks before the original 1993 adventure game. It tells you why he became what he became and exactly how, but the build that I've been playing, which is going to be almost identical to the one that we will have on Switch, Steam and other platforms, it does introduce you to a few characters and the type of flavour. Now firstly, on the subject of Simon himself, Chris Barry is just brilliant. The way he delivers his lines, it feels like Rimmer is going to run in at any moment. Like, I just love his tone, it's so funny. But it's not just him, the dialogue of everyone that I've spoken to so far has been on point.
Why is the lady in the picture wearing a false beard?
False? Oh, callow youth.
And the comedy timing is just right. One of the characters is this weird cursed items seller in a shop. And actually, if you look over their shoulder, you see that it's like a octopus controlling a puppet. It's so dark. When you're playing an early build and you find yourself just laughing out loud, you know that they've done something right when it comes to the writing.
Maybe you could let me borrow it for a bit.
Sure, but only if you leave a couple fingers as collateral.
Now, controls-wise, on a console, I was keen to see how they would adapt things. Thankfully, if you're playing with a controller, you don't have that awful moving the cursor across the screen with the analog stick. I don't know why anyone would ever go for that option. This feels more like perhaps a Telltale's or one of the more modern point-and-click adventure games where you control the character directly. That includes holding a trigger that lets you sprint around the environment, and interactable items, they have a semi-highlight around them and you'll use the bumper buttons to select what you want. It makes a lot of sense and it's really easy. And then for things like inventory combinations, you can press a button that brings up your inventory, grab a thing with A, and just move it onto something else. If you're successful, well, you'll know about it pretty quickly, but as far as controls go, I was really pleased to just see a very simple system that makes sense. Now, with all of these games, much of your time is spent in dialogue or grabbing up objects from the environment. Unlike past games that used a verb system like open, pick up, here it's all done intuitively. You'll just see a changing symbol depending on what you're interacting with, such as the hand to pick up or the mouth to speak, but not like your full throttles where you'd hold the button down and have different options. The build that I've been playing has a few red herrings. There's a good mixture of having to think laterally with the inventory items that you've got, but also dialogue plays a big part. So chatting to someone, which will then unlock a new dialogue path with someone else, which might then unlock a new option of something you can combine in your inventory. I enjoyed the way that they introduced the map. So there's this giant pin in the town square, and when you interact with it, you can see a giant pin in the map. Gives you an idea of the overall layout and the different areas. You've got a basic to-do list that tells you exactly what to do next, but obviously not how to do it. But gameplay is going to feel familiar. I do prefer the tone here. Some of the past games were a little too, I guess, childish for want of a better word. I was such a fan of the LucasArts games that, yeah, and even things like Leisure Suit Larry, they just went too far in the other direction. But this one feels like a nice halfway house. It has that British humour, but it's also got some coherence to it. And the puzzles, while you will have a few slightly unusual ones, most of them actually make a lot of sense. As does the return to a classic hand-drawn art style. I personally thought Curse of the Monkey Island was like peak in terms of that. I loved that they went there and it just looked incredible. So seeing this developer also opt not to go down the 3D route and to return to form, I guess, with this style of art is great. The animations, they have that low FPS style that actually works really nicely. There are the occasional characters that perhaps need a little more work, but generally it's a fitting style that I think people will enjoy. That classic 90s cartoon aesthetic. When it comes to the music and audio, well, we have Mason Fisher, who has made an original soundtrack and it's solid, but there's also a couple of nice little cameos. There's potentially a little Rick Astley in there. I won't spoil it, and plus it would be copyright central, but it certainly helps to capture the feeling I think they're going for. As far as who's creating this one, it's Small Things Studios in collaboration with AdventureSoft, which I believe was founded by Mike and Simon Woodruff. And then we've got the platforms. Now, this is releasing physically. You can actually pre-order this game right now over at Innin's website for £26.72, or I guess your regional equivalent. There is a digital edition as well that's going to be £24.99. Now it will be available on all platforms digitally, but as well as the standard physical, you've also got a special edition which includes a history art book, the original soundtrack, and a little something extra as well, which I won't spoil, that you can use in game. So that's it really. If you like the idea of playing Simon the Sorcerer again in a new adventure game on your Switch or other platforms, I'll pop a link to it. You can go check it out, maybe pre-order it, that is live now. And as I say, the game releases on all those platforms on October the 28th. That was a real treat for me, I have to say. Some of you might be looking at this going, you know, what's the fuss about? But it's like a piece of gaming history treated really well, and I like that. It's nice to have a new adventure in one of my favorite genres. Hopefully Nintendo will have given out some dev kits at some stage, and these guys will be able to implement things like mouse mode on the Switch too, but that's all in Nintendo's hands, isn't it? They're taking their sweet time. A thank you to those for sponsoring, to all of you who enjoy the content. For all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!